Okay, thank you, Nora, and good morning to everyone, all of you out there, amazing female entrepreneurs, both north and south of the border. I am Roseanne Kelly, the Chief Executive of Women in Business, and I'm really delighted to be here this morning to have worked with Nora the fabulous Nora on bringing together this series of 4 All Ireland webinars, which have been kindly sponsored by Intertrade Ireland. Nora and I talked last year, I think it was about, oh my goodness, isn't that typical? Talked last year about these webinars and about how important it is for women and female entrepreneurs to hear from other entrepreneurs at all stages in their journey and in all different sectors, and also to hear from women throughout the island of Ireland, and to share the different experiences and to share their stories. And no better woman than Nora to interview and host that conversation and that chat. And also, I think Nora knows a few people down south, and I know a few people in the north. And I think between us, we were able to, I believe, bring together a fabulous guest guests for the series. And as you can see this morning, we have the fabulous Sonia Deasy and Alyson Hogg joining us, and Nora can introduce them later. But just to say before I head off, thank you so much to both of you, because I know your time is very precious, and also for agreeing to be part of this and to share. And finally, before I hand over to Nora, I just wanted to give you a date check, which is put into your diaries for the 10th of June. We are hosting an All Ireland Female Entrepreneur Conference, and we'll get information on that out to you next week. So that's all from me. So thank you, good morning, and enjoy the webinar.
Thanks, Roseanne.
Over to you, Nora. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Roseanne, and welcome everyone. I'm one of those few Irish people who actually sticks to time, so we're going to try and make this 45 minutes like a very high-powered. My job is to delve deep into the minds of Alyson and Sonia, so that you find out everything you could possibly want to know about them, their business, how they developed their career. They both have very different stories, very, very interesting backgrounds, but I'm going to dive straight in. I have asked you to use the chat. It's not that I'm not capable of double tasking, I am, but it's often easier if the Q&As come through on the chat rather than the Q&A forum. Don't worry if you've put questions up there, I'll pick them up afterwards anyway. Alyson, I'm going to start with you. So I think because we're going to talk about your business life and your journey to now, but for everybody, we're against the backdrop of the last year. So tell us just a little bit about the business side of your life. How did that change when the pandemic hit?
Well, I think if I give you I know everybody wants to know about Vita, and I'm not operational in Vita anymore, but of course I have an interest in it. I sit on the board and so on. So when the pandemic hit, the first thing that we did was we reconfigured our plan. So, and I'm going to talk about plans a couple of times. I'll mention it because it's such an important part of how you make success in a business is to plan. So we had a plan for the year, and that went by the board March of last year. It was just like, okay, we'll tear that up. We knew nothing, and nobody knew anything back then. We didn't know how long it was going to take. We made 3 plans actually. So one where we would all be out and fresh and happy by May, one in August, and one in December. And actually we're still here and we're still trying to crawl out of the pandemic. So yeah, it was very difficult. Tanning is it's a celebratory product. It's something that you tend to put on, if you've got a special occasion. Well, special occasions were gone. We also have the whole professional element to our product, and salons have been closed for a year. So I'm not going to lie, we took a hit. But we did pivot very much to online. We did have some very, very key online retailers who had pivoted very fast and knew how to react in real time to the challenges that everybody was facing in just getting hold of stuff. Yeah. And that was incredibly helpful for us. So we have learned a lot over the last year. But yeah, we didn't lose our shirt.
Yeah.
but
Well,
we definitely lost an overcoat or two. You know?
yeah. Alyson, I think it's refreshing though to hear, like, I think a lot of people try and gloss over it, but it's been a pretty tough year for everyone. And now my impression at the moment, while tanning wasn't top of everybody's mind really over the last year, it certainly is now.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, we're kind of drowning in requests in the magazine for people to do tanning products. I think we have 4 pages dedicated into this issue.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's on the up again. But just tell me a little bit personally, like, that's your business life. And of course, we're all blended humans. We don't come as work people and personal people, but what's home life, what's personal life like over the last year?
So, you know, I'm one of those people who I appreciated this time. It made a massive change for me. So I would have traveled an awful lot. I mean, literally, I was one of those people with 1 million air miles, literally 1 million air miles. So, you know, I was always exhausted. The travel stopped. And when the travel stopped, I got this moment to realize and remember what rest was. And that gave me space to think about what I wanted to do next. So as I say, I'm no longer operational, but this gave me the opportunity to do a couple of different things. So I started a podcast called The Survival A to Z, which is basically lessons from business that I've learned and with other business women, or even not business, but just really strong women who have learned their lessons and how you survive, basically how you get through. I started a nonprofit called Twerps, which is the Women's Investor Ready Project. That's myself and 3 other amazing women from the north of Ireland and also from the general region. And basically the idea there was to try to help women get more funding, because women get only 2% of available funds for funding for their businesses, which is astonishing and horrific. I also then set up my own business, a brand imagineering business, which was for strategic development and products and marketing and sales and distribution and so on. And that has been really successful. And I have a number of businesses that I work with, and they keep me very busy. Also moved to Devon, which is where I'm sitting, why it's so sunny. And I got a dog.
Well, you know, I thought you said you had space to breathe over the last year. Like you've done more than most people do in a lifetime.
But I wasn't traveling. And I tell you, it was shocking to me how much, not just time, but actual energy is taken up in traveling. And even whenever you travel smart, and, you know, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't traveling in the cheap seats at the back, but it doesn't matter. You still have to get to the airport, get through the airport, go through the time zones, lose the sleep, and just kind of constantly.
Everyone has mentioned it, and I'm sure that it's not good. I don't think that bit's going to come back anytime soon. Sonia, just hopping over to you. How about you? You know, in the beauty business, how is the pandemic in terms of business life?
So when the pandemic hit, our online sales blew up overnight. Obviously, we were worried about our retail sales, but our website had been developed 6 years ago, and it was definitely well overdue an upgrade. And like what Alyson said, we had a plan for our business moving forward, and that blew up in smoke. So we put a really robust plan in place to launch a new website. From the day the pandemic hit, it took us 6 months. So we knew that we needed to get e-commerce, you know, the gold standard of e-commerce if we were going to thrive and survive in this pandemic.
Did you feel supported? I don't mean, did you feel supported by the government? Did you avail of any of the pandemic supports, grants, loans?
At the very beginning, we did for the first, I think it was the first month, because we didn't know what was going to happen. So we furloughed 8 staff. Because we simply didn't know, and they would have been mostly our employees that had been on the road. But yeah, for the first month we did, but then we our sales grew 300% online, so we didn't need any more support.
Which is a great story. And how about you personally? I know I should have asked Alyson about her kids, but of the 5, I think you were saying they're all adults, Alyson, but you still have young things, Sonia, haven't you?
So I'm a mum of 5. So when it hit, suddenly there were 7 of us at home. And I think I discovered that I wasn't very good at homeschooling. So, you know, we had to, I do have, you know, my eldest child is 16, they go 16 down to 10. So we did, you know, I implemented some of the things we implement in our business here, where we developed a tiered system where the older
I
ones,
love that.
they did have to help teaching the younger ones. But frankly, I don't know how to do algebra anymore. So looking back at, you know, my personal journey throughout that time, it's a bit of a blur, to be honest, because I was firefighting between homeschooling, minding children, running a business, and also I have, my parents are elderly, and I'm the only one of my siblings that lives near them. So I'm kind of responsible for
Carer responsibility.
yeah, and making sure that they're okay.
Yeah, I think, you know, the story you tell there, Sonia, is not dissimilar to a lot of women who working from home wasn't actually the ideal, because they ended up being, you know, the cleaners, the cooks, the shoppers, the homeschoolers, as well as the people who worked. And of course, you're in partnership with your business, so it's a double whammy. Alyson, I'm going to jump back to you. We've 2 mums of 5 on, by the way, just so you know. I think that says a lot about women and how driven they are when they become founders, you know, that they're almost able to join as super women. Alyson, I'm going to ask you, so this could be in the context of your life, as in maybe your journey through Vita Liberata, that at some point you might have transformed that business, because I think both of you have that unique ability to be able to say a crisis hits. Of course, we've had the biggest crisis ever in our lifetime, but there are always crises that hit when you start a new business, and which led you to reimagine the business. Just tell us a little bit about that. And also, you know, was it, I suppose, was it, you know, a eureka moment, or was it a gradual process?
Well, you know, before I say that, I do want to say something about anybody listening who's had to deal with children of school age during this pandemic. I take my hat off to you all. I could not have done it. I could not. I'm with Sonia. I would have been a useless homeschool teacher, because I wouldn't have had the patience, probably. I certainly wouldn't have had the knowledge in math. It would have been a disaster. So I honestly, when I think about it, and I think about the stress that it would have put on me, I just have got such respect for you all. So I really had to say that. My kids, my youngest is 26, so it's nothing, it didn't affect me in that way. And thus I had a great pandemic, if you know what I mean. But oh my gosh, can't even imagine. Anyway, big changes in the business. So we had 2 big moments that made a massive difference to us, that I can think of in terms of product and the business. This is apart from taking on finance, growing and scaling, which is another thing again, but just right back at the beginning. One of them was that we didn't always sell tan. In fact, for the first 4 years of the business, we sold anything but tan. Yeah. Then I made a great tan for my assistant, because she was wearing a terrible tan, and she asked me to make one better. And I thought, well, I'd better try that. Having done that, though, most unexpectedly, it sold out like that within weeks. And then it sold out again and again. And I realized that all of the warehouse full of skincare and cosmetics and everything else we've been doing for 4 years was as nothing compared to this product that everybody wanted. And I said at the time, just naturally said, we need to sell what's selling, i.e. the tan. That was a huge risk, because we had to park an enormous amount of stock and investment in time and money and everything else that had taken to develop all of that for 4 years, and pivot onto this product that was selling. But as it turns out, that was probably the right thing to do. You know, I became known as the tan lady, which was bizarre, but there you go. And we made a business out of that part of the market, and I learned what being niche really meant. But that was a terrific moment. And the other was going clean, which I think I was quite ahead of my time without realizing it. But going clean was a massive thing for us at the time. I really wanted to do that. I wanted to have a sustainable product, but I also really, more than anything, wanted to have a clean product. I'm a researcher at heart. I was an academic before I did this. Yeah. So on researching, I discovered all about the kinds of things that you can put in product and the kind of things you should keep out of products. And I became passionate to try to develop products that were really active, but also were clean. And that was huge for us because although we were well ahead of our time, so it was a difficult education process for our customer, it did unwittingly give us a space apart and something that we could really hang our hat on. Now, of course, if you're not sustainable and clean, well, you're not in business and beauty, that's for sure. So, so those were two big things that we did. They were kind of eureka, but they were also, I think the thing was that we were flexible enough to move with them.
Alyson, can I just ask you, you kind of glossed over, I wanted to make a tan for my friend, so I just made it. I mean,
yeah.
How did you, like, given that you were way ahead of everybody else, you know,
yeah.
you had some great celebrity followings over the years,
yeah.
you know, now, as I always say, you were in a blue ocean, you know, swimming clean
yeah.
with nobody around, and now it's a bit of a bloodbath. But way back then, when it was kind of unusual, I suppose, to find somebody making a tan that was odorless and organic and everything else, how did you make the one for your friends?
So the first thing we did was basically take apart, I got a great chemist, and then we deconstructed the chemistry around tanning and then built it back up again. And I went into the lab with a tick list. I mean, it took about a year to do it, but I went in with a tick list of the things that the barriers that I felt needed to be removed from this product category so that I would want to use it. You know, and so that was big chemistry, to be honest with you. You know, removing the smell from tan is an enormous thing. Making tan last for more than a couple of days is huge, and then making it last and fade away well is, I mean, it's just incredibly difficult. But it's also really important. If your client base is celebrities, they can't have all that kind of, you know, snakeskin, I used to call it, on their hands. So it has to fade away. So, you know, I did the research. I worked with a chemist that I trusted. I got to know him very well, and together we developed, he began to understand me, I understood him, and together we developed this better product. But it took a long time, you know. I was patient and rigorous, I think.
Yeah, I think that's worth just explaining, because sometimes people think quick as a flash, you know, you pulled one out of your back pocket. But I mean, I know you're a scientist at heart, which is probably the secret to your success. Sonia, you know, back before 2014, yourself and your husband were involved in a photo studio. And, you know, how on earth did you come up with the idea for the business? Was it, you know, you were just chatting one day and said, why don't we do this? It's quite different, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we ran a portrait studio together, and at that time we were working. When we were running the studio, it was back when the recession hit. So in our portrait photography business, we were looking for other avenues for income. I was expecting my 5th child. So we were traveling around the world educating professional photographers, and that's where I got my idea. So it was while we were traveling in America, you know, in our portrait studio, we photographed every normal day women with young families. But when we were educating at professional conferences, I got to see the other side of photography, which was commercial photography and models on shoots and how the skin was prepped. And it was here that I saw makeup artists using products with hyaluronic acid in them. And I never knew anything about the ingredient. I have a sister who is a biochemist, and I phoned her up and said, look, do you know anything about this ingredient? She told me it works. And then, you know, I put my mind to formulating a product like Alyson. I had researched the market on hyaluronic acid serums and found that I didn't like using any of them. So I deconstructed it and made one that I love to use by using natural ingredients combined with science. And that's...
Did you get it right all the way, Sonia?
No, I think it took us 18 months. But we do have a very strong marketing background. So it was just myself and my husband. He created the website. I wrote all the wording. He designed the packaging. He photographed the packaging. He built the website. So we had a very strong marketing background as well. So from our portrait studio.
Did you, was there a point outside of the pandemic, was there a point when you know, your packaging is beautiful, the brand is beautiful, everything is lovely. Did you transform the business at all since 2014 to now? Was there a point when you said we need a new strategy?
Well, our mission, I think, always it's relevant because it's very simple. So our mission is we want to make people look and feel their best every day. And we do this by blending science and nature to create daily skincare products that work. And we're, you know, we are always innovating and upgrading our products, whether it be the formulation or whether it be the packaging. So we, you know, and sustainability is, we're always looking at sustainability. All of our packaging is made from 100% recycled paper. We're about to offer an option on our website where you can buy our products without the packaging. We have shown on our website, deconstructed every single product to show people how to recycle it properly.
Yeah.
We're not perfect. You can't recycle 100% of our products, but hopefully one day, you know, we'll get there.
Did you have, you mentioned your sister, and I'm going to come back to Alyson on this point, but did you have a mentor? Like, I know, having had, my husband did work with me actually for a period of time. So I know it was often very hard to, you know, in the evening time to stop talking. When we were on holidays, that was often the time we talked most about it actually. Did you have an external mentor? Did anyone help you to develop your business?
I would say no, but I do come from a business family. So my parents were self-employed and my husband's parents were self-employed. So I suppose my dad, he will be my harshest critic, but
good.
my biggest fan, yes. So, I mean, I was brought up with, you know, the philosophy in life of, you know, consistently working. You know, hard work will pay off, and be consistent with everything that you do. And that's, and luckily my husband is like that too. And I suppose he grew up with the same philosophies.
So it's in your DNA, which is good. How about you, Alyson? Did you, like, was it a lonely path as a business owner, or did you have some mentorship or support?
I didn't have any, well, I had my father, so that's not true. It's not that I didn't have any mentorship and support. I did, of course. I had my father who'd been in business for literally ever. But, you know, his business was roads and concrete. So, you know, it's helpful, but it has its limits in beauty. I mean, I suppose it's construction, I don't know. But so when it came to things like marketing and PR and stuff like that, I mean, he really didn't have a clue. Products, not a clue. He used to call it that brown water. You have that brown water. You sold that much, that brown water?
Love that.
Just like, you never got it. Never got the concept at all. But so I didn't have, at that point, there weren't any, I suppose, people like me who had done it. Do you know what I mean? In retail, generally, and in beauty particularly, who could do that big grow and scale thing. You know, that it's really about having a vision. And then if you can find someone who can help you structure that vision, that's the kind of mentor that you want. You know, my husband was in the business, but I'd call him a partner, not a mentor. My father was a business mentor in terms of money, but not, and, you know, spreadsheets, but, and plans and things, but not a mentor in terms of what should I do next? What's the rabbit hole I need to avoid here? How should I approach a buyer? What, you know, all of that stuff that, because without a mentor, it took me a little bit longer, I think. And it was definitely more expensive because I had to make my own mistakes and learn from them, which was fine because I survived it. But so I've, you know, it's grand, but it's tough.
Yeah.
So
Alyson, I was going to
lonely?
ask you,
Very.
just the truth is that, you know, women, certainly of my age, if somebody says, did you have a mentor? I usually make it up, because actually there was no such thing as mentors when I was going through business. You know, a chance conversation with a colleague is usually what I describe as a mentorship. But did you, particularly when you were looking for finance to start with, was your father useful? Like, that's the one thing that women, especially back in the day, you know, when you needed some finance to start with, was your father useful in that area, or did you get advice elsewhere?
My father was useful in terms of the in terms of banks and things, you know, he would attend the very early days. He attended some meetings with me to give some, to give the bankers some heart, that I wasn't just this random, as they saw it, unbelievable, but as they saw it, this random girl coming in, looking for money for that brown water. So, so he was very helpful with that. When it came to getting investment, that really was, you know, me talking to my lawyer, having a chance meeting with Deirdre Terrans from Crescent Capital, who never did invest. I mean, that timing was never right, but it became an interesting discussion with her and an interesting relationship. And that was from actually giving some talks about, you know, I was on like some platform or other and giving a talk about how difficult it was being in business. And she was giving a talk about finance. And I was like, oh, maybe that's the kind of person I need to be talking to next. So I had to kind of scrabble my way through and learn as I went along. That's not ideal. I did manage to be one of that 2%, you know, who gets money, but it is wrong. Frankly, it's wrong that women, here's my feeling. This is from my nonprofit, okay? Here's my feeling. Women are not listened to, they are not taken seriously. Their ideas, particularly if they're to a female market, tend to be ushered away. And that's because mostly we speak in a language of our own, as it were. We don't speak in the finance language. And a lot of it is learning the financial protocols and the financial language that allows you to be understood by the mostly men who have money. That can be corrected by women investing, but the truth is that mostly men have the vast majority of this money. So we need to get ourselves understood, and they need to be made to listen carefully, because they're missing such a trick in terms of the economy. I shall get right down off my soapbox now. Well, but it is so important.
I agree with everything.
It's incredibly difficult. You know? Everything
you've said, Alyson. You know, every woman has a difficult finance journey, and very few businesses of scale, and yours was of significant scale, sold on in 2018, wasn't it, to an American company. You don't get there organically, or as I always call them, the 3 F's: friends, family, and fools. You know, a lot of people go to their Uncle John asking for money, and Uncle John is monitoring everything you do, and you have a new outfit on, but you didn't give me the money back. You know, emotional attachment to money is something you never want. Sonia, did you need an investment, or did you grow from your reserves, cash reserves?
So we have grown organically. So our company has no debt or no investment.
Which is great.
So, but, you know, never say never. I just feel that it's not the right time for us yet, that I would prefer to learn everything that I possibly can about the business, and then be in a better position to make a decision on investment or not. But I think also in the pandemic, we're in a very good position because we're not under any pressure. So we can, we can
make a decision. I think that the biggest decision, so I would say that Ireland is awash with microfinance, women in microfinance, going back to Alyson's point, that it's very difficult for them to get out of a lifestyle. Now we're talking about a lifestyle business where the business is catering for lifestyle, but a lot of women end up in the small business sector because they can't stay in corporate life because of family flexibility or other reasons, and then they end up working, but just really for enough to pay themselves rather than being able to grow and scale. But both of you have huge scalable business, which is quite different. So I guess the big decision I always say to a woman when she's starting out is, imagine, do you want to do this when you're 60? Are you growing a business to sell it on? You know, what is the point of you growing this business? Is it just something that you like to do? And therefore it's a quite different decision as to whether you take funding or not. I'm just going into your head now a little bit, Alyson.
Okay.
So I think that all of us learn new behaviors. I think I admitted to you the other day that I really found it hard to delegate. Really found it hard. I was always wanting to do everything, and that was a tough journey for me. But what things have you stopped doing? Like, I mean, what do you not do now that you used to do before?
Well, there's 2 things in particular. I thought about this, and there's 2 things in particular that I it's like I do and I don't do, if you know what I mean. So the I don't do is I don't wait to hire people after I actually needed them, if that makes sense.
It makes sense.
So that is part of planning, which is the other thing that I do is I plan. And I, at the very beginning of the business, mostly down to my father, because he only thought I was selling brown water. So what the heck? I mean, who needs a business plan for brown water? Seriously. So I didn't write a business plan for like, I don't know, 10 years. And that I'm very much into planning. So, and I didn't have a granular plan at the beginning. I didn't even understand what a business plan looks like. So it's okay if you're listening and you don't understand what a business plan is. It's basically a huge spreadsheet with a lot of notes on it. It's telling you what you plan to do for the next year, well, the next 6 months, year, and 3 years. And it's not something that you have to hang your hat on. You don't stick to it, but you benchmark against it. You constantly come back to it and check, am I where I thought I would be? And do I still have cash to help me get to where I need to be? Am I going to run out of cash? Oh dear, feck, not a swear. Always telling the Americans that it's not a swear. You know, I better go and get some money from somewhere if I want to grow in this way. If you want to scale and grow, you are going to need a plan. Yes. That is, because if you don't have a plan, you cannot secure finance, because finance people need to see a plan. So that's something that I do now that I didn't do in the early days. And now I do it with everybody. So all the businesses I work with, the first thing I say is, have you got a plan? And the first thing they reply is, what's a plan?
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
Yes,
with
I
you.
have a plan. I want to leave in 5 years. I want to sell out in 5 years. Yeah, that's not a plan.
and it's dynamic. I mean, I think if you don't set a sat nav for your business, you're not really on a journey to anywhere, really. Sonia, any behavioural change that you've noticed about yourself over your time as a founder?
Offline.
Can you hear me, Sonia?
Yes, sorry.
Any behavioural changes that that you think you've made, as in something that you used to do before that you've stopped doing, or lessons you've learned over your journey in business?
Well, I suppose in the past year from the pandemic, I traveled a lot, like Alyson as well. So I would have traveled probably twice a month, and myself and my husband would have been like ships in the night. I would go, he would come back. So I don't do that anymore, but I used to oversee the day-to-day operations of our entire business. So like anything from banking, sales to customer queries, really heavily involved. Even though I wasn't physically doing the stuff myself, it was always there, and I might be asked a question about any area of the business at any time. And I suppose I don't do that anymore, because in the past year from the pandemic, we have worked really, really hard to put robust systems and processes in place that so I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, I think that's, I studied strategic management for 2 years with Ashridge Management College. So strategy is my big thing. I have to say that it's a mix for me, that sometimes I mentor women who have a strategy that are firmly focused on, and you're like, oh, okay, the pandemic's just hit, so we need to throw that one out the window. Both of you have that rare ability, I think, to have the plan, but be capable of reimagining it, which really only starts in a startup mindset. Younger people in a startup mindset are really, really quick to pivot. Alyson, can I ask you about success, you know, what you think success in a business is? You mentioned cash flow. And of course, I'm always, you know, I beat that into every business owner, you know, every time you make a decision, think of the cash flow, think of the cash flow. Don't be thinking about the margin, think of the cash flow. But the second thing is, on a flippant basis, I just would love to hear how you got Kim Kardashian to put that tweet out. I think everybody would. Because to be honest with you, that must have been worth, you know, millions. I don't know how much that's worth. But secondly, at what moment did you decide it was successful as a business? You know, tell us about selling it on and how was that bittersweet, you know? But you start with the Kardashian tweet. Okay,
well, I didn't get Kim Kardashian to do that tweet. She just did that tweet. Or that Instagram. So I didn't know. I had nothing to do with it. We had nothing to do with it as a company. I think her makeup artist just really liked the product, and there you go. And they wanted to talk about something that moment, and we were the lucky subject of their conversation. So,
but you did her tans. One of your, like, I know you did.
Yes.
I think it's worth far more if you had nothing to do with the fact that she put up an Instagram post. But you did her tan, and she loved it.
Yes. Yeah. But then what we did was we made a fantastic product.
Yes.
At first, we made a fantastic product that was used by people like Kim Kardashian because they appreciated the difference between a great product and a not so great product. So, if you ask me, what did we do? We made a shit hot product. Yes. And that is the most important thing. I always say to people, you need to love your own product. You need to believe in your own product. If you don't love and believe in your own product, nobody else will. Why would they? So, it needs to be robust in the marketplace, and you need to know that it is robust in the marketplace. And yes, it is lovely for Miss Kardashian or for, Jennifer Aniston or for anybody else to love our products. We love that. Bradley Cooper, we all love that. But it's Leo, wonderful. But these are all people who are just using the best product that's available to them. And that was the smart thing. The smart thing was to work on the product and get it to be as good as it could be, while also knowing that it'll only be ever at most 99% perfect. If you try to go for perfection, you will get stopped. You will never bring a thing to market. There is no such thing as perfection. If there were, there would be no such thing as growth, because growth assumes that you're going to do something better tomorrow than you did today. Well, Alyson, if you're doing everything perfect today.
How did you let go of your baby? What did it feel like then? Because you're so passionate when you're talking about it. And I know myself, because I've sold a chunk of my business, how difficult that is. It's a tough choice.
I kind of sold it twice, if you like. So I sold a very large chunk of it, about 50% of it, to Broadlake in Dublin to begin with. And that was the hardest moment for me. That really was, because I realized, okay, I don't have control anymore. It's a 50-50 here. We have to agree on everything. I have to agree on everything with somebody who doesn't know anything about my product. Now, it's not that they didn't, they knew, they learned. I'm not berating them. And they were very forward thinking, and, and we got finance, but it was an extremely challenging time for me to let that go. I wept and wept and wept and wept, and I thought I was doing something terrible. The second time when I actually did exit to Hildred in New York, did that even feel like success? I'll tell you what success felt like. Success felt like the times when we all sat in the office and roared with laughter at something, or we were thrilled to bits with a new product that we were bringing out and we all really believed in it, or somebody had really achieved something amazing. And that sounds so cheesy, I know, cheesy. My children all say, you're so cheesy, Mum, it's unbelievable. But it is true. Those are the moments that feel like success. We're doing something right here. If a girl pitched up with, blue white skin, and you could give her a really healthy glow to her skin for a few days, and she just felt fantastic at her wedding, that felt like we had done something significant, even though it only was a tan. It's only makeup, who cares? Nobody dies from the lack of a tan. But still, if you could deliver and make people happy, that felt like success. But success looks like, success metrics look different for different people, and they need to be all of those things. It needs to be a great product. You need to have a sustainable company. You need to put lines in your budget. Sustainability, what's it costing me? Yeah. Factor it in. If it's not in your budget, if it's not in your plan, it's not there. It's not happening. That's what I suppose success looks like. Yeah.
It's a great answer, though, because I think for a lot of women, it's the passion and the mission of the journey as much as it is about the financial success. Sonia, what does success mean to you in terms of your business?
I think right now it will be holding on to our current team and growing it. And also we are about to launch a new range in June, which
Well, obviously the Official Secrets Act came in there about the new product range.
Quite right.
Sonia, is your husband in
Somebody
the background
switch
turning
that
the
off.
broadband off there just at the right moment?
So
just-
funny.
Sonia, we missed a bit there
Oh.
because we were laughing, saying we think your husband turned the broadband off just at the moment when you were telling us about the new product launch, but your screen froze. So pick it up from, you have a new product launching in June.
Product launch, yeah, so it's launched to a brand new customer base in June. And if, you know, managing that and creating that new product range in the pandemic and launching it in June, I mean, if we can manage to do that, which we're on track to do it, that would be great. I can't tell you any more about
It's okay.
product launch. And then also, you know,
That's her husband again. Yeah. I'm telling you, she shouldn't. Every time she mentions that new product, she freezes up. We'll wait for Sonia to come back, but I'm just going to say to all of you on the call, you have 4 minutes to get some questions in, if you don't mind, because we're planning to finish quite promptly. Sonia, we missed you again. You froze again. I don't know what's happening, but just to finish on that point of success, is there ever a moment where you stopped over the last and said, wow, you know, we've arrived? Or is that something that you always think about in the future?
I never do. Honestly, never. I just keep going and going and going. Yeah. So, you know, I always say to my husband that sometimes we're very bad at celebrating our wins. We are. But I suppose that's because, you know, when you have kids, and we have 5, they ground you fairly quickly. You know, you could sell out on QVC in America, fly home, walk through the door and walk for dinner.
Absolutely.
So, I have a 22-year-old who, that's the great levelers in life, definitely. The last question I was going to ask you was really just for you to give some advice to the people who are logged in today and who are listening to you. You know, what nugget of advice would you pass on to them? Alyson, you go.
Okay, I have a couple. I'm going to make it quick. I've written them out, so I'm going to read them.
Fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So business is tough. Get used to it. Okay. Accept it. Business is tough. It's shit. That's okay. Yeah. That's business. Okay. Do not expect it to be plain sailing. Buyers are not your friend, and they enter into every transaction with a negotiation mindset, and so should you. Really important. Only bring products to market that you really believe in. We already had that discussion. You need to have hero products if you're going to, as a small business, survive. Keep an eye on your reviews. They are the new word of mouth. Okay, so if you've got a bad review, listen to it. Try to understand what that person is going through and try to address it, and always reply to them. Create a granular plan. Or get someone to help you do that who knows how to do that, because to grow and scale you'll need finance, and for that you need a plan. We said that already. Be very rigorous, be exceptionally flexible, and assemble a team who can truly help you bring your vision into reality. And finally, and we already said that, just don't forget to have fun. It makes the very difficult, you know, business is a bitch journey so much more doable if you can have a laugh and not take yourself too seriously. It's never over till it's absolutely over. There is no moment when you ever stand back and think, oh, aren't we clever? If you do that, the baseball man will, you know, there's a little man with a baseball bat sits in your desk, and he will come and whack you over the head as soon as you relax for a nanosecond. So forget that. That's definitely, certainly in my experience. I know, I just glossed over all of that. So I was like, oh, great. Yep. Good. Yeah. Kim Kerr. Yeah, that's great. Lovely. Let's move on.
Well, it was a great list and worth writing down. Alyson, just because it's the last, I just want to see twerps that you spoke about. How do people, is there a website? How do people get access to that?
There is, we are just about to launch a survey that we did last year during the pandemic, you know, from women's lived realities in business. So there is, it's twerps.com. It's the Women's Investor Ready Project. You can find it on Instagram, and from Instagram, that's the only social media I do. I'm so embarrassed.
She's Instagram.
I'm all about Instagram. Then you can go back round and find us. But TWIRPS, twerps.
TWIRPS. P.S.
Yes,
twerps.
twerps, because twerps are silly, contemptuous creatures, and isn't that what women have always been considered to be for so long?
Yeah, well, definitely not now. Sonia, tell us little nuggets of wisdom for people listening in.
I have one, Nora, only one. So
It's a good one.
do something that scares you every day. Nothing really great happens in your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, Sonia. We spoke about that. Tell us some of the things you do that are scary.
I think everything I do every day, I never sit in my comfort zone. So if I was in my comfort zone, I would begin to get worried. I suppose like Alyson. So I live on the edge, and I have always lived on the edge.
It's really weird. Like I have the exact same mantra in my own mind. I took it to extremes when I went whitewater rafting and zip lining and, going up to fly a plane when I was scared of heights. I used to think that was the dopamine fix, that I would, but now I find that I can do small things in everyday life. That's why I was intrigued at yours, because in the pandemic, it's been quite hard to scare myself, when you're wandering from the sitting room in your pajama bottoms and, just getting dressed to do a Zoom call on a Friday. Thank you for making me wash my hair, Somebody on the call said, why is there no gray hair? Well, I have to say there's those spray things that you can get in a chemist. That's about it.
Mine is basically white underneath, that's the thing. And that's down to the business.
Just to say a big thank you to Sonia and Alyson for sharing all their thoughts. And this is part of 4 webinars we're doing with women in business in Northern Ireland, inspired by them with Intertrade Ireland. And the idea, despite what you see on the news every single night, is that women, work without borders. They always have. And we wanted to make sure that we were connecting women all over the island of Ireland, because that's the future. Just, in business terms and female founder terms, we're much better off, stronger together. We're much better off learning from each other. We certainly don't have sufficient numbers of female founders in either side of that border. So we're better off connecting and making sure we learn from each other. So watch out. I will always put it up on the on Instagram and on Twitter and on LinkedIn, so you'll find out when the next one is. They're pretty close together. The very last one has Moya Doherty and Anne Herity, which is going to be a phenomenal one. But I'll keep posting about it. So thank you, all of you. Have a great Friday. Keep holding on to the thought, those of you who are down here in the Republic of Ireland, that on Monday we can actually go beyond 5K from our homes, which is great. We'll have to get that tanning on just for that. And Sonia, we're waiting with bated breath to find out what it is you're going to launch that your husband kept blocking the broadband for there all the way through the call. So thank you. Happy Friday, everybody. Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.